And joining us in studio now in the big chair up there, we've got licensed nuisance wildlife operator Mike McDowell, the critter cat. That's a heck of a thing to put on your business card, Mike.
It is.
I love it. How you doing this morning?
Awesome.
Well, the weather's getting cooler. I noticed when I walked out the door this morning, there was almost a nip in the air a little bit, and that means you're about to be busier than normal, aren't you?
It's been a busy fall already, yes. The animals are going crazy. Things are starting to move in, trying to get all that cold weather that's coming, so they're getting their nests and their dens ready, and yes, they're looking for any way they can to get into homes.
And the problem with that is once they get in, it's hard to get them out.
Absolutely. You have the issue of trying to find out where they got in. Once you figured that out, then you've got to figure out how to catch the animal. And if they've never been caught before, it's not too hard usually to catch them. But we have issues nowadays where people are trying to do their own thing, their DIY stuff, and they're catching the animals and taking them out and letting them go somewhere else and educating the animals to the traps and being caught. So then when I get there, if they've already been caught, it's even harder for me now. I've got to up my game level to try to find a way to get those animals out of there.
You talk about upping your level of your game. What would that involve? I mean, you've got your traps, and of course, I'm a complete noob when it comes to all this. How do you up your game past that? If they already know about the traps, what do you do?
Oh, there's quite a few things we can do. If they're not going to get into a trap, then we are either going to have to physically put our hands on them to catch them, maybe in an attic or maybe under a house. Sometimes we may be using nets to kind of catch them. We're actually going to run them out trying to get them. Sometimes we use other, non-evasive type traps like a snare that would actually hold on to them. Then we've got to fight them to get them into the cage. We do things like that.
How many times have you been bitten?
Well, we wear gloves. We try not to get bit. We try to be professional about that. There are ways to do things so that you don't get hurt. Absolutely. There are sometimes it's not usually the animal that you're trying to catch that gets you. It's the one that you didn't see that was behind something or around, and then you're grabbing a younger animal, maybe an infant or something small, and you don't know the mama is right around the corner. And so, especially when it's in an attic and it's dark and you can't see, or you're under a house and you're limited vision and limited space, and then next thing you know, boom, something's coming at you. So you just always have to be aware of that kind of stuff.
That story you just told of being in a dark attic, not being able to see, and an angry mama coming at you because you just grabbed her baby. What made you decide to go into this as a line of work, Mike?
I get that question a lot. I love the outdoors and I love animals. I grew up, in the country, and we dealt with wild animals all the time. We didn't get paid to do it; we had to do it. So I don't have a fear of animals. And I think that's the first thing I tell people when they want to get into this business is you cannot have a fear of animals. I respect them. Don't get me wrong. I totally respect what that animal can do to me, but at the same time I've learned enough about the animals and know kind of their reactions and what they're going to do, so it kind of keeps me out of harm's way a little bit. So if they're going to bite me, I'm going to let them bite me in an area that it's okay. I've got a glove on or I've got something in my hand to force them to do so I don't get hurt.
Now, we're talking about nuisance animals. What kind of animals are we talking about? What's the most common thing that you deal with?
We catch everything in the States. It's not really one type of animal. It's you can't I guess, exclude any animal that we have here that we haven't caught. Primarily, we're talking about nuisance. We're going to talk about bats. We're going to talk about raccoons, possums, snakes, beavers, coyotes, fox. It goes up from there. Skunks are really big right now. Skunks, we have a huge skunk population in the Jackson metro area that we deal with a lot. Those are the nuisance type animals that you're going to have to be licensed for. Anything that's you're going to have a license to hunt or to trap. That's kind of a nuisance type animal.
Now, you mentioned skunks right there, and I think that brings up a great point because you said that there's a large skunk population in the Jackson metro area. You wouldn't think that. That wouldn't be obvious that, you got skunks everywhere.
Yeah, we probably catch anywhere from 400 to 600 skunks a year. A lot of those areas that they're developing north of Jackson, south of Jackson, east of Jackson, west of Jackson, they're developing areas that have large populations of animals. And when that happens, it displaces the animals. And some of these animals will leave, they'll move out. Some animals don't. They just, learn to live where they want to live. And skunks are one of those animals. They're not really bad animals. Yes, they do smell sometimes and they do spray, but they're not bad animals. They're like cats, actually. And they're very prolific. The females are going to have 5 babies once a year. And you're not going to stop that. They eat everything. They eat insects. They eat grain. They can eat dead animals. They'll eat whatever. It doesn't matter. There's so much food out there. It's like a raccoon. There's so much food out there. They're always going to have something to eat. And then they're going to have the huge litters every year. And so it doesn't take very long to have a lot of skunks in one area.
I don't want to run you out of business here. I'm not trying to take away business from you, but do you have any tips for people to make sure that some of these animals, any of them, get into their home? What can homeowners do to prevent some of this?
Yeah, great question. The main thing is that you want to go around your house, whether it's on a slab or it's off the ground, it's conventional. You want to go around and make sure that there's no way for an animal to get under the house. You want to make sure that there's no way for an animal to get up a wall. Most people don't think about an animal climbing to get into a house. They think, oh, it's on the ground. They're just going to get on the ground and find. No. A lot of these animals will climb. A lot of them will get on trees and come up trees and land on roofs and play on roofs. People don't realize that a lot of these animals are on their roofs all night long. They don't realize that not just a squirrel will get on a roof. A raccoon will get on a roof. A possum will get on a roof. They'll get up there and play. And I see it all the time. And people don't realize, hey, I need to look at my roof line and see if there's holes up underneath where multiple roof lines meet. Maybe there's a corner that I've got, some rotten wood, maybe a soffit or a fascia board's off. They're going to find that stuff. Okay. And the reason years ago we probably wouldn't see a lot of this, but now that we've pushed these subdivisions so far out into the country, these animals are learning to find ways to get into homes. And once you find one female animal, whether it's a raccoon, a possum, a squirrel, a rat, it doesn't matter. Once they found a way to get into that house, had a litter of young, and then taught those litter, how to get into that house, then they're now knowledgeable. So when they get older, they're going to go to some other house and they're going to find a way to get in. It's just a whole process, and it doesn't take very long. So once you get a group of maybe we'll just say maybe 2 litters have figured out how to get in and out of a house or been raised inside that kind of thing, they're going to teach those litters, and then eventually you have a subdivision full of animals getting in houses, and people don't realize that's what's happening. They've taught those animals how to get into those houses, but you can't blame the homeowners because, like most of us, we're working 10, 12 hours a day. We don't have time to look at our house every day, so we're so busy. But we need to take a little bit of time, at least in the spring and in the fall, to make sure everything is sealed up well. And I say sealed up well. If it's a squirrel, you're looking at a golf ball to maybe a baseball-sized hole. If it's a raccoon, you're looking for about a softball-sized hole. I mean, they don't need very big holes. People are thinking these are big animals, and they are, but they don't need very big entrances. So you have to really look at the small things and get them fixed quick enough, and then the next question I usually will get is, hey, Mike, how did they find this hole? What did they see it? What's going on? A lot of times when it gets cool like this, it's very hot in our attics right now, right? So in the nighttime, that air is venting outside that attic. So these animals are on the roof and they're running around. They feel that warm air and that draws them, just like it would be like a cave. You feel that wind coming out and they're thinking, oh, I got to check this out. And the next thing you know, they're in the house. So if you can get those things sealed up and keep that hot air from escaping out into the area, a lot of those animals will never know that hole's there. And therefore, they're going to go on to the next house or move on back into the woods.
Very nice. Now, you said it's already been a busy fall, but we even with the and I hesitate to call it a cold snap because it's not, but the cooler temperatures we've had recently, that's been very recently, but they've already started making these moves.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to think about they're outside all day long, so warm to them and warm to us is totally different. So maybe it's 80 degrees at night. Okay, fine. Well, to them, that's not that hot. They're on top of that roof. They feel a little bit of air change, and it's going to attract them in there. They don't care about the heat. People give me that question all the time. Mike, it's 150 degrees in my attic, or it's 120 degrees in my attic, or whatever. And how these animals can't live up there? Oh, yes, they can. They're perfectly capable of doing that. They'll get into the fascia board and lay on a vent, or most of the raccoons and some of the rodents that we get into, they'll actually dig down into the walls. And it's a crazy dynamic, but about 6 foot off the ground, and if you get into your house and you're in a hallway and you're about 6 foot high in that wall, if they bore down to about 6 foot high, that temperature is about even. It's not hot. It's not cold. It's perfect for them. So people don't realize that hey, they're going to figure out a way to do that. The raccoons get really smart because a lot of times I'll get them out of an attic and they've actually ripped into the ductwork and they're laying in the ductwork. So during the summertime, the air's blowing them all day long, nice and cool. In the wintertime, the warm air's blowing them all week. They figure out how to do that kind of stuff. And I mean, and normally I'll know when I walk into a house because you'll smell that odor, that animal odor, and I'll know, okay, they're in the vent work. But we get a lot of animals out of vents.
Boy, you get in that kind of setup as an animal, all you need to do is figure out how to order food in, and you never go anywhere, right?
And most of the time, there's cat food or dog food laying outside, and they're just going outside to eat and going right back in. Yeah.
Mike, you have one heck of an interesting job. I've always loved hearing about it and talking about it. Just real quick, throw it out there. If somebody needs your help, if they've got a rhinoceros in their basement or something, whatever, I'm sure you can handle that too. How do they find you? You got a website?
Yeah, website is thecrittercatcherllc.com. Or you can reach us, we're on Facebook, 601-966-5539 is our local number. We cover the state, so we're not just Jackson metro area. We do everything we can do to help anybody in the state and get these animals out of those situations where they need to be back in the woods and leave people alone.
Mike McDowell, always good to talk to you, sir. Take care of yourself and keep your gloves on.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice you could give anybody in that particular line of work, I would think. We will continue in the Element Well studios.